Hey guys, it's Demi from Curve the Cube, and I'm going to make this a super quick intro. At least I'm going to try. This is the 45th episode of the podcast, and it is a Curve the Cube CTC Pod Squad episode with my boys, Jay and Scotty, and I'm so excited to have had them on again. They're awesome, and in this episode, we talk about Halloween and creepy things and ghosts and share some stories and just fun stuff. It's a really, really cool episode. It's probably one of my favorites. So this is exciting, and so you're gonna really love it. So I'm gonna stop introing it and just say that this episode is sponsored by No Hard Feelings Tattoo Shop, owned by Chris Blinston of Season 6 Ink Master. He is making his way, he's made his way into the finale, which airs, so this is coming out on a Monday, and then the very next day is the season finale of Ink Master, October 13th, because that's like witching and stuff, right? So it's the season finale of Ink Master Season 6, Spike TV, 10/9 Central. Catch Chris Blinston on there. He's the owner of No Hard Feelings Tattoos. And then be sure to go and look him up and find him on all the interwebs and book some tattoo work because he's phenomenal. And if you mention the podcast, you get 10% off. So that's super cool. So that's all I'm going to say. This is Jemmy again with Curve the Cube, brought to you by Flintstone Media. And enjoy this podcast. Happy Halloween! Almost. Bye.
Curve the Cube will now initiate.
Welcome to the second episode of the Pod Squad. So dumb.
Hello, cool boys and ghouls.
Oh.
Or as the Crypt Keeper used to say, boys and ghouls.
Get you right for it, Awesome. I love it.
Alright, that goes on for like 2 hours.
Wonderful. That was perfect, Scotty. Thank you.
I've been rehearsing all afternoon.
Have you? I
Yeah.
believe it.
That's
I
what's
totally
up.
believe you.
That's what's up.
That's what's up.
awesome. Welcome to the Halloween episode. I'm so excited to have you guys here to talk about Halloween.
Halloween.
It's my holiday.
Being scary. Yeah, when you were like, I don't watch horror movies, I don't know how much I'm going to have to contribute. I'm like, BS.
But you said horror movies. I don't watch horror movies,
Yeah,
but Halloween
still,
is
Halloween.
my holiday.
God, no, I figured as much. That's got Scotty written all over.
Some people go big with Christmas. I go big with Halloween.
I believe it.
Yeah.
You went big with just that outfit that you wore to the first premiere of Clowns Have Murderous Ways.
Oh, yeah.
that was
badass.
awesome.
You
That
had
was
those
like,
little doll
Yeah.
That was-
arms
I'm
sticking
telling
on
you.
your
Yeah.
face and
that
everything.
was awesome.
American
That was
Horror Story.
incredible.
That was
thank
great.
you.
And your wife got in on it.
Oh, yeah.
Made
Bearded
for each other.
woman.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, it
that
was
was-
so good.
Yeah, that was awesome. We got to find a picture and put it on.
Oh, you know I have
yeah.
those.
You gotta
You
find
know I
this.
have
Oh,
That
those.
way
course she
people
does.
could know what we talking about because
Exactly.
it was off the chain. When I first seen them, I was like, holy
What?
smokes. I was with somebody, I don't know who I was with, and they were like, who's that? And I was like, that's Fusion. They were like, wow. I was like, yep. They were like, does he work here? I was like, nope.
I think I was the only one in the costume that night.
I know,
Yeah.
and I was actually kicking myself that I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
You know, when we got there, I was like, oh, that's so brilliant.
That was just the beginning. Now we know.
I
Next
know,
time.
I know.
You know what we need to do? We
What?
need to like find a horror movie out. They give a lot of classics in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
And we should all go dressed like all three of us.
Absolutely.
And be dressed up and go. I mean,
Have a time.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
You
That would
know,
be awesome.
Halloween it's a celebration on one's long, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
anytime, yeah, we should totally do it.
Yeah, we
Are there
should
any?
do
I actually hadn't thought about that. Are any good horror movies?
Well,
right
they
now?
if you go to like Movie Go or whatever,
To find the old school
or
ones?
Cinemax,
Cinemark. Yeah.
they have like they throw a lot of old school throwback movies every
Every
so
once in a while,
often,
I've
and now
seen
for
that, yeah,
Halloween, I'm
yeah.
sure they gotta throw like
I would hope so.
some movies out there. You
I would
know,
hope so. one of the classics, like
Yeah.
Halloween itself, or yeah.
Yeah, that's right there. That's one of my favorite horror movies out of all like the horror dudes out there, murderers like Jason, Freddy Krueger. Michael Myers to me is like reality. Like that dude is. I mean, coming. You know what's my favorite is the not the original, but I got a couple of months back. I went to a certain store and I bought one.
That sounded so shady.
No, I didn't. And I you know.
I know. You don't want to say the name.
I don't want to say the name. So I bought it. And I bought the Rob Zombie version, the remake. So I bought it, and I bought the on-edit version. So I was like, oh, let me see, the director's cut. So I went and I put. I'm gonna tell you one thing. That blew me away to the point where I'm like, the other Halloweens had there was no justice done with it. He's a
sick dude.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. You know what I like about it is that I like when you go back to a story and find the background of the serial killer. Why is he a serial killer? This goes back with Michael Myers, like the original one back in '77.
Yeah.
The beginning was only a 5-minute thing. They show him as a little kid. They show him up in the loony bin. He gets to a teenager and then he disappears.
Right.
He escapes.
Right.
In this one, it shows you as a kid why he's angry.
Really?
His upbringing, his parents. Why is he a killer? And I don't want to give it away if you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
But this totally opens up the gate. So when you see him, I respect him. And I was like, I understand why he's killing. It's real good.
I wonder. I forget who did the original Halloween. It wasn't Wes Craven, was it? Do you remember? I wonder if whoever did it, if they were involved with the backstory that Rob Zombie interjected. I wonder.
Well, a lot of the story is kind of similar, so I'm sure he had to have permission.
Yeah.
But a lot of it, he twisted around and it made it to the point where it's like you kind of feel bad for Michael.
Yeah.
Because he's doing it because of his upbringing. It's not because he was born that way. He was brought up in a situation that, to this day, when you hear about serial killers and you go back, they were picked on when they were kids. Michael Myers, he has a little history up there, but as a kid, he got to that rage. I don't want to give it away, but that right there, I recommend it. The Rob Zombie Halloween remake.
Duly
I will
noted.
put it on my list.
So I know you say you don't watch a lot of horror movies, Scotty, but do you remember what your favorite or first one was when you were a kid?
I mean, I grew up with the Friday the 13th series.
Yeah,
we'd go away to horror
classics.
camp. We'd go away to overnight camp
and
be just horrified. Yeah, I went to horror camp.
Great parents.
And that's horror, not horror camp.
That extra syllable is extremely important.
Really important. But as far as scary movies go, I mean, like The Shining, that was, is that true Halloween movie? That's a scary movie.
Such a good movie.
Yeah.
I was just watching, because right now they show like all these, they always show like Paranormal Activity and all these other shows all the time. But there's of course bring out some extra stuff around this time of year. And there's a series going on right now called like The Most Haunted Places or something like that. And I caught a few of them, and one of them was talking about the Overlook Hotel that The Shining was based on. And I've heard the stories a bunch of times before, but every time I hear it, I'm like, that is just crazy to me.
It's
the
scary.
Stuff that, like, the history of that place, and to hear that, he just happened. What they said in this one that I didn't hear before was Stephen King had like writer's block. He wanted to write another book, but he had no idea what to write about. And a friend of his suggested, why don't you go away for the weekend or something like that? You and your wife take a drive. So they took a drive and they saw the Overlook. It was so far out there, it was random. They see the Overlook and it was kind of dilapidated. So it was extra creepy, right? And they're like, we'll go there. And they happened to get there on the last day that they were having guests. Wow. So they stayed just the one night. And he's like, first of all, he got lost walking around. And that's how we got inspired, just because of how creepy and how winding all the hallways were. When I was, I used to work for this company. I had this job where I was traveling all the time to Cleveland. All the time. I mean, like 2-3 times a week I was taking flights just to go to Cleveland. I remember one of the first times I went, I stayed at, it was called the Renaissance Marriott, okay? Very old hotel, downtown Cleveland. Beautiful, right? I get there, and I get booked on the top floor. I'm like, oh, I'm important. So I get up there, And I get off the elevator and I'm like, holy shit, I'm in The Shining. Oh my god. Like, from the carpets to the walls, everything looked just like The Shining. Super spooky. And I had the super creepy crawlies. And I'm walking around, and again, I couldn't find my room. So I'm turning around corners and all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know where the hell my room is. And so I'm standing here at the end of the hall. At one point, I'm like, well, let me just take a picture of this hall, because it's really awesome. So I'm looking down the hall through my phone, and I see way down at the other end around the corner comes a bellhop, right? And I'm looking in my phone, and I almost pissed my pants because I just kept thinking, please be real. When I look up, please still be there and like be 3D and be real. And it was a real person. That's how creeped out I was. And so every time I ended up going there, like every single time I went, but it just was so much like The Shining. It was crazy. But I think the first horror movie I ever saw wasn't even really a horror movie exactly. Did you guys ever see Faces of Death?
Yes.
Oh, I won't watch that.
I've seen that.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what my parents were thinking, but they let us watch all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember watching those, and I still don't know to this day what was real and what wasn't, because there were rumors and conspiracy theories going around all the time, but what a crazy series.
Yeah.
You've seen it, Jay.
Yeah. I remember going to the video store and renting Faces of Death 1, 2, 3, and watching them, and it was back then, it was like, me watching it as a teenager, I'm like, holy smoke. And to this day, I'm almost 40 years old, I could think of...
Me too.
I could think of certain parts of that movie, and it's still in my brain to the T.
Yeah. Oh,
the monkey.
Too. Oh, I didn't see the monkey.
Yeah, that one there, the monkey did it for me. They will go, I forgot what part of I don't know what country they will go, and for dessert, they will bring like one of those little orangutans, and they will put them in like this table with a hole, and they close up, and then what they will do, they'll take a little hammer and they'll start hitting it over the head lightly,
bludgeoning, like
no, basically like a click, like a little knock back and forth until it was in a coma and dead. Then the server will come, cut the monkey's head open, literally open it up, and the dessert was the brains, and they were scooping up and eating it.
And this was on Faces of Death?
And it was on Faces of Death.
Oh
and it was
I'm glad I didn't see that.
And this is why I didn't see any of those movies.
I remember that to the
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
I just remember Halloween was always this time. It was like, it was super creepy but super fun at the same time. It was this great time of year. What was trick-or-treating like for you when you were kids?
Well, I remember the lady down in the corner house, we wasn't allowed to go trick-or-treating because back in when we could go, that's when everybody was putting needles and blades in the candy.
Yeah,
so that was like big, like that was in the 80s when that started hitting. So a lot of our parents didn't let us go. But the lady in the corner, what she would do, she would go and get like I remember one of those Halloween bags with a witch and skeletons on it. Yeah. And she would fill it up and she would put like, I always remember, she always put like an apple and then she would put candy. And all we did was we would be in our neighbor's house. I remember we had one neighbor. We would do a party downstairs. We would do Bob the Apples, doing stuff like that. And then we would walk down the block to that one house, and we would knock on her door, and she would give us everybody a bag of candy.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's how we did it.
Yeah.
But we wasn't allowed to go knocking on people's doors because back then we wasn't sure if we were gonna, people were finding the needles and the candy. And so our parents never let us do it. So, but it was fun because it was, we got candy and we had a party.
Absolutely.
And it was pretty. And I always got like He-Man. You remember back in the day, there was the plastic. I used to always get. I remember it was so awesome. We used to go. I used to get the box. We used to go like to.
Oh my God, that's right. They used to come with those boxes.
Yeah. We used to go to like Woolworths. We used to get them in Woolworths. And I remember I had the G.I. Joe one year, the He-Man another year. I was Hulk Hogan one year. Yeah. I mean, I was Rocky another year. They had all the and it was great. Spider-Man.
Yep. All that.
That was my Halloween growing up.
Halloween down here was weird because. So I grew up you pretty much say I grew up in West Boca. I don't really admit that too much, but it's true. And it wasn't, there was really nothing there when we first moved. When we first moved, it must have been 84, and there just was nothing there. But I remember our Halloweens, and the neighborhood we lived in was a gated golf community, like a whole bunch of old people. So there just was nothing. So my mom used to take us to the mall, because the mall, Town Center Mall, had, the stores would give out things. And so it would be a big thing. You'd see kids walking around and everything. And it never seemed unusual to me until I started seeing movies like E.T. and stuff like that where they're outside. I'm like, oh wait, this is how it's supposed to happen.
Funny.
Now I get it. And then when I got to like middle school, I remember it was when I was allowed to go to like friends' houses and go through their neighborhoods, and it was fun. I remember one year blew my mind. This is when I knew just how rich the kids were that I went to school with. Because one year we all went to this one particular girl's house. And I kid you not, her dad opened the garage and he had 3 golf carts for us. And we went around the neighborhood on golf carts. And I'm like, that's weird. Right. And then I realized everybody in the neighborhood was doing it that way. I'm like, wow, people are just really, really rich. And that's gross.
Mm-hmm. You must have gotten good candy, though.
I don't remember. Oh. And I was the weird girl who I actually liked the box of raisins. Like, I would trade. I know, I was weird. I would trade with friends afterwards, and I always wanted the box. I was everyone else's best friend that night, because I always wanted the box of raisins and the candy corn. Those are my 2 favorites.
Wow.
You don't like candy corn?
I like candy corn. I won't take the raisins.
The raisins is
yuck.
Unusual. What can I say?
Oh, jeez.
I don't know what to tell you.
It's all good, though.
It's all good.
Halloween, where I grew up and when I grew up, was really lame. I grew up in Chicago.
Okay.
So it was usually so cold that you'd have to wear your winter jacket over your costume.
True.
So you'd have your costume on, which you're really, fought to get, because you
pumped.
had to have that costume.
Yeah.
And then you go out and you put your coat over it, like, this really sucks. And then you'd have those old plastic masks with a little elastic band that went around your head.
Yes!
But they were so bad that your face would start sweating there, but it
And
was so
sticking
cold
and
out.
gross. Oh.
So it was like a catch-22. Your face would get so chapped from being in these plastic masks.
God.
It was awful. So between sweating and freezing at the same time.
I can only imagine.
And where I grew up, it was all apartment buildings, so you couldn't really go from house to house. You'd have to like press a buzzer and get buzzed up to like the 3-story places. It was awful. It was
that's so
lame.
weird. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
How you do it? Because I've lived in an apartment complex now for years. But this is the first year that my son's old enough that he is getting excited about Halloween. But the last couple of years, like, it's always been let's go find another neighborhood that works. But I never even think about it. Like, what do you do downtown
Chicago
places?
brownstones. Yeah, I don't know how the city kids do it.
Yeah.
But we had the old brownstones 3-story buildings. You just go from house to or apartment to apartment. And it wasn't until we moved out towards the suburbs where we actually had houses. And Halloween became a whole different thing. You'd go out with your jacket on, you get a block from the house, you'd throw your jacket in the bushes somewhere, and you'd go trick-or-treating. Just make sure you bring your jacket home with you.
So your parents didn't get mad
exactly.
for being out in the cold.
Yep.
That's funny. Yeah, no, Halloween's been awesome. I love it. And have you guys ever had anything really creepy happen, like around the holiday or just in general?
General, yeah.
I have a story.
Oh, please share.
It was around this time, and I'm in my grandmother's house. She lived on the 5th floor, and I'm looking out the window, and I see a guy in a trench coat, and the guy across the street there was St. Simon's Stock, is a Catholic church / school, and the guy stops. I'm looking out the window. It's dark. It's nighttime. It's maybe 8:30, whatever.
How really?
I must have been maybe 11 or 12 years old.
Yeah.
So my grandmother's kitchen, she always had that only light on. She had the house was always dark. She was always watching her Spanish soap operas in the back room, and I was staying over that day, and I'm looking out the window, and the guy stops in the middle of the street, not in the middle of the street, but the middle of the sidewalk, and he looks up at me, and he's staring at me for a couple of seconds. Then he starts walking towards the building. But it was the same thing like Scotty said. Those buildings you have to buzz in to get in. I don't know how he got in. And I don't know how he knew which apartment which to stand in front. I remember the elevator door opening up. And I remember I couldn't reach to look at the peephole. So what I had to do, I laid on the floor and I see the guy get out of the elevator and stand on the side of the elevator looking straight at my grandmother's door, which there's multiple doors. But like I said, I wonder how he figured out which door was it that I was, which window was it.
Yeah.
He's staring at the door. So I remember I told my grandmother, Abuela, there's a guy out there, and this is what happened. So she basically believed me, but she's like, how can that be? Why he's the man that's going to look up at you and look up and then cross the street? So my older sister lived in the same building. I'm the baby. My older sister got me by 12 years. So she was in her early 20s. So we called her up, and she called the super. So the super lives in the basement. He comes up. He gets off the elevator. As soon as the elevator opens up, and it's my sister and the super, the guy gets in the elevator. They come straight to the door. The guy, he disappears. Like, literally, like, they don't see him walk out the building.
What?
Like, there's no surveillance camera, so they can't go back and look.
Right.
Obviously, he walked out the building. But then, years later, I was telling a story to certain people that I know, and people were telling me that this man in a trench coat was going molesting children.
Wow.
And he would pay candy to them, and he would do stuff to them. So I'm telling years later this story to somebody, and they telling me about, oh wow, I know somebody that got molested by a guy in a trench coat, and he would come around the neighborhood and give these kids candy, and yep. Ugh. And so I'm like thinking to my, and it was around around this time of year.
Yeah.
So I remember that like it was to the T, because it was this time of year that guy came upstairs, and to this day I remember that man's face. If I see him right now, I would say, I know you. It just never, it was scary.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Wow.
Well, I just had the Gold Coast Paranormal Society on a couple episodes ago, and so they shared some EVPs, which were super incredible and crazy. So to my listeners, you got to go back and listen to that episode. But so I'm fully convinced that there's spiritual activity, there's all
totally.
of that. Like, I'm fully convinced of that.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
And I remember I shared this story on that episode, but I'll share it briefly again. When I was maybe about 7 or something like that, I remember waking up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. So I get out of my room, I go to the bathroom, I get back in bed, and I drew the covers up, and I ended up having my hand, at the top of my chest by the nape of my neck, and as soon as I closed my eyes, I felt this hand clamp down on my arm and start digging in its nails. And my fear reaction at the time was absolute, like, I would freeze. I couldn't move. And I remember saying to myself, you gotta open your eyes, you gotta open your eyes, you gotta open your eyes, you gotta open your eyes. And I couldn't do it, and it just kept getting worse and worse and hurting more and more and more. And I finally willed it enough, and I opened my eyes, and as soon as I did, it was gone. And I was freaked out, and the next morning, I ended up having these, like, indented scars. And I had scars for a couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just this random, weird thing.
I
So,
believe it.
I've never had a physical experience like that, but I've seen so many weird things that I can't even begin to tell you.
Yeah.
I tried where I went to college at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. It was rumored that there was a ghost on premises, especially in the theater department, and all the time we'd hear doors slamming and things happening that just were unexplainable.
Right.
And it was around this time of year. We had a class in the studio theater. It was the Black Box Theater, and there was nothing in it at the time, so you could see the entire thing. You could see the catwalks, everything. And the teacher was sitting like in the middle of the room where like the stage would be. And as he started talking, like these lights just started fading on and fading off and fading on. And we're looking up, and there was nobody up at the control board.
Oh my
and
God.
so and that just kind of stopped.
Right.
And then after class, we had gone up there. The 3 lights that were coming on weren't even plugged in. It's like, what the hell?
Stop
I mean, look,
it.
I got goosebumps
You
on
totally
my
do.
arm right now.
You totally
And
do.
I mean, there were like guys who would be hanging off the catwalk. One dude almost slipped, and he felt somebody pull him back on.
What?
It was weird, always weird.
Well, at
things.
least it sounds like they're friendly.
Right, fortunately.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if it'd been the other way? He felt a shove.
Mm-hmm. What? You got another one?
I had an
All right.
experience when you're talking about that.
Yeah.
Me, my friend Frankie, my friend Junior started talking about ghosts and demons and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And literally, we were talking about like mocking it, basically mocking it. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was sleepover.
By the way, the candle there just flickered when you said, it was like, don't you mock us.
And then I'm just like everybody. If you don't know, my background, like I'm a youth minister, so this stuff is for real.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it. I was about 15, 16 years old. We making fun of it, like ha ha ha, telling stories. When we went to go to bed, we were scared because we were like, oh, we just finished talking. So we took the beds and we put the beds all together to make one big bed.
Creeped yourselves out.
Yeah, and I remember I was the youngest, so I was in the middle. So I that's like. I could see right between the beds. Mm-hmm. And we start talking like low, and then we start falling asleep. We start getting to that sleep mode. Mm-hmm. We start hearing something scratching. It starts off low. We thinking it's a rat. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you hear that? It sounds like a rat. But then it starts getting louder. It's like, well, maybe it's a squirrel. Mm-hmm. Then it gets louder, and then it's like, oh, no, that's no squirrel. And it sounded like it was coming from underneath the bed. So I went to get up. Oh, I went to get up. My sneakers was by the bed on the floor. Yeah. Now I didn't see my sneakers fly or anything like that, but my sneakers got thrown underneath the bed, and you hear the.
What?
Yeah. And when I went to get up,
almost like they're being pulled by the shoestrings, maybe.
I don't know how it happened. Yeah. I didn't see it happen. All I see is like I hear my sneakers go. So then I feel like literally like somebody trying to lift up the bed, but they can't.
What?
Yeah. Like we could feel like the pressure, like if somebody's underneath the bed trying to push 3 teenage boys. Yeah. But it wasn't happening. But you could hear like if somebody forcing, and then we start calling the name of Jesus.
Well, I would have been in absolutely.
When we start doing that demonic thing that was underneath our bed got angry. Punched the bed.
What?
Boom! And we felt and we started screaming. Ah! My dad walked in. My dad is a minister.
Yeah.
He's a child. He walked in, opened it without me even saying nothing. He knew that there was a bad spirit's presence in there. He just started praying and like casting it out. And when he started doing that, we heard like if we couldn't see it, but literally like if somebody was struggling and like rolling from underneath the bed going,
what?
And then literally like the wall went boom.
Stop it.
God is my witness.
Oh my God.
And my dad is going to listen to this, so he's going to testify.
Yeah.
And then my dad was like, all right, come on. So he told me to get out the room, and he told the older boys stay there because they were friends. Yeah. And I went to my dad's room. And I lay with my dad. The next day, my friend Frankie, he said he heard like if it was like if somebody was doing like a show, like they would show a soldier in the hallway, like marching back and forth. What? But he was so petrified, he didn't dare yell for my dad or get out from the bed.
He was terrified.
Wow. And then I remember that happened in 1991. Because the next day, my dad took a video camera and he recorded he wanted to hear the testimony, like what happened, and we gave that encounter. I have it on VHS tape of us talking about what happened.
You need to convert that. That's crazy.
I got it at the house. That was in Wow. Yeah, and so I believe that stuff. If you open up, and I believe it. If you entertain it and you open up, you hear the movies like I'm opening up the gates. It happens. You want to entertain, you want to call something in, it will come in.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never like called for anything, but I remember because I went to college in New Orleans, which is the cemeteries are nicknamed the cities of the dead. Like it's Voodoo Town, exactly. That has such a history. There, and I remember I was babysitting for this family. They were unbelievably wealthy, like disgustingly rich, right? And they had this beautiful house. It was just gorgeous. Basically, it's a house that if I could find the architectural plans and I had a dream house, that would be my dream house, And the kids were, I think at the time, maybe like 2 and 7 or something like that. So anyways, it's a nighttime gig, and the parents are gone, and the kids go to sleep. I remember, so I was sitting in, I think it was called it was like a sunroom type of place, and I was just reading a book. And I just remember hearing like a creak. And I'm like, that's weird, you know. And I didn't really pay too much attention. And then I kind of heard it again, and this time it almost sounded like a footstep. And I'm like, that's bizarre. And I'm like, okay, are the kids up? You know, and I went to check on the kids, and no, they were both asleep in each of their rooms. And so I had to pass another room to get to where their bedrooms were. And as I'm walking back to where I was reading, I'm passing that room, door. I didn't know what it was. I've never been through it before. It was like maybe the third or fourth time I was sitting for them. And as I'm passing the door, I hear it again, but way louder. And I hear it twice, and then I hear a door close on the other side. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, this is when you got to test your mettle as the adult in charge and take care of business. And I mustered like every bit of courage I had, because to me it was like either it's a ghost or it's a person. But either, if it's a person, I need to take care of it somehow. I didn't know what I was doing. I was in college, but whatever. So I remember like I slowly opened the door, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was a very dark landing with one doorway off to the left. It was only about 5 foot landing with the door off to the left. But directly in front of the door I had opened was a staircase. And you could tell whatever I was looking at was nowhere near as well taken care of as the rest of the house. And I immediately knew it was old house slave quarters. I immediately picked up on it. And so, and at the top of that flight of stairs was another much longer landing, about maybe 10 or 12 feet, with 2 doors on either side. So I don't know exactly which door had opened and shut, but I was super creeped out. And I remember I asked the parents when they came home if they knew the history of the house, and they said, yeah, that's exactly what it was. It used to be an old plantation house. And I was like, okay, wow. That's just super creepy. I didn't think it was appropriate to tell them why I was asking, because I didn't want to totally freak them out, but I was real. I mean, I had major goosebumps. The hair on my skin was all the way raised, and it was super. What'd I say?
The hair on your skin.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that right?
The hair on your skin.
What should I have said?
Well, I don't know. It just sounded weird when you said it.
It did sound weird to me, too, but then I reprocessed, and I'm like, I think that's right.
Sorry.
It would be weird to say the skin on my hair, right?
Yeah. The hair on my skin. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
It's okay. I had the same reaction. But yeah, it was weird. So those were my ghost stories.
I got 2 more quick ones.
Oh, please do.
I used to work at the Maltz Jupiter Theater up on Indiantown Road. And I would always be the last person out at night, so I'd go through the dress rooms, make sure that everything was unplugged, no curling irons plugged in, all the lights were turned off. So I had a routine. Every night I would go around. It was basically a big circle to make sure all the doors were locked. And I had gone through the dressing rooms, and I got halfway down the hall, and all of a sudden this door went slamming shut. I mean, not just closing. I mean, it like somebody slammed it. I mean, there was no wind, there was no windows. It slammed shut. I'm like, what the hell? So I like backtracked, and again, here it's like up on edge. If you can see my arms right now. So I went back, I'm like, hello? And I didn't hear anything. So the door, I made sure they were always open. So I grabbed the doorknob, and I kicked the door really hard to see, because if someone was hiding in there, I wanted to hit them.
Right,
what are you doing in here?
Right.
And there was not a soul in the place. So I'm like, all right, that's just really weird. So I continued down the hallway, and I made a left turn down this other hallway, which was just off the side of the auditorium. And when we had, handicapped seating, we would take 2 of the normal seats out and store them in the hallway so that people could get in. So I'm going down the hallway, and the seats were still there. And I look, and there was a woman who was like sitting on the floor with a white dress, long gray curly hair, and she had her head down like on the seats in the hallway, and she was like crying. And I'm like, what the hell is this? God. And I'm like, hello? And I looked at her, and she looked like somebody we work with. I'm like, Anna? And she didn't move. And I'm like, again, I'm just like freaking myself out. And I closed my eyes, and I turned around for a second. I'm like, all right, this can't be real. And I turned back, and it was just like like this haze, and it was gone. I'm like, what the hell? And I stopped. I left the building. I didn't finish locking up. I didn't turn the rest of the lights on. I'm like, screw it. If there's something in here,
I don't blame you.
It was the scariest thing.
I'm thinking about the ghost in the library in the first Ghostbusters
movie. And it was the weirdest thing I've ever witnessed with my own eyes. Wow. I mean, clearly, you know, benevolent. Yeah, it was harmless and whatever it was sad. But I'm like, I don't need to be here for this. And it was the weirdest thing. I never saw it again after that, but it was the most amazing thing.
Was it I mean, you said it looked like a girl you knew. So
yeah,
was it like fully? Did it look fully solid, or did it kind of?
Yeah, it looked like there was a woman sitting in the hallway crying, and she was like wearing a white dress and had long curly gray hair. And I'm like, why would she be here at this hour crying? And it just none of it made sense. And then when it just like evaporated before my eyes, I'm like, holy shit, I am out. Yeah, wow. yeah.
Did you go back?
Not that night, no. But from that night on, every time I went to lock up, I'm like, oh God, when am I going to see this time? And it never came back and never saw it again. And
so strange.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could go back again and see it because I'd try and find more information about her, try to talk to it, or approach it or something. But yeah, I don't know.
So strange.
And then the second one I used to work at the Lake Worth Playhouse in Lake Worth regularly, and I would spend the entire nights programming lights and stuff. And that place is notoriously haunted. Mm-hmm. And one night I had Eli with me, and he was really little at the time, and I said, look, you know what, why don't you go lay down for a while downstairs, there's like a sofa down there, take a nap, whatever, I'll be up programming up in the theater if you need me. And he came running up to me after, he'd been down there for maybe an hour or two, he came running up, he's like, there's something here, I'm like, what's here? So I went with him, there was nothing there. He said, but he was wearing a necklace around his neck when he fell asleep, but when he woke up, it was in his hand, clutched. And I'm like, that's so weird. So
that is weird.
But all kinds of weird things happen there all the time. I mean, it was not uncommon to see something moving in the distance or have a door closed or hear somebody walking around in there. But all the time I was there, I always felt like there was a spirit or something going on.
There definitely are certain types of places that seem to have these kind of stories, like old theaters and stuff. It seems
but that theater is especially interesting, so I started doing research on it because the Oakley brothers, who once owned it, and evidently one of them actually died there of a heart attack while he was running. He actually owned a theater, and so I wound up doing a whole movie about it and doing the whole research, and we went to the gravesite of the guys, and it was just weird, just.
And
that place is definitely.
I mean, if you're not going to name drop, I will. Who did the narration on the movie?
I can't name drop. I'm not allowed to say. It's
not
in
in
the credits either. No.
Oh,
but if you watch the movie and listen, you'll probably be able to identify him. I could say that it's a celebrity that everybody should know.
Everybody should know.
He lives in the Jupiter area. Yeah.
Enough said.
But it's him. Yeah.
Yeah,
but it's a cool little movie you can find on YouTube, and it's called Lumiere Fantôme, the Ghost Light.
I've seen it.
And it's only like 20-something minutes. It's an easy thing, and it's semi-autobiographical.
You're having trouble. We're struggling.
Yeah, I know. But it's based on a true story.
We are struggling.
Yeah, I know what I'll be doing tonight.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to it. It's cool.
Yeah.
Or can you post a link to it?
Yeah, I'll keep it in. I'll include it in the write-up.
Cool.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm gonna take it out tonight.
Awesome. But we won several film festivals with it. It was cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So.
I love watching like those TV shows about that type of stuff. Like one of my favorite ones right now is called The Ghost Inside My Child. Can you get more creepy than that?
No.
And it's all about like kids that have past life experiences and stuff, and it's horrifying because you feel so bad for these little kids that are terrified, and some of them it's like since birth that they are constantly screaming, constantly having nightmares, and as they get older they start to be able to articulate a little bit better what they're seeing, what they're experiencing. And they start bringing in these details of things that no kid should even have heard of, like certain ammunitions, or if they were a soldier or whatever, or certain languages or historical things that have happened. Like this one girl, she had all these recollections of some horrible cataclysmic event, and they were able to tie it to like the ruin of some ancient civilization. It was crazy to me. I love those type of shows. I'm kind of addicted.
And I totally believe that. I mean, Eli also, when he was a little kid growing up, we'd always hear him, either talking or laughing. Once we put him in bed, I'm like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
And he had this quote-unquote imaginary friend.
Yeah.
But the things that he would come up with, there's no way that he could have possibly known any of that.
That's bananas.
And then when he started doing, things that were bad, he would blame it on this ghost or a friend of his said he made me do it, he told me to do it, and he was serious. He said somebody told me to do this, and it was this person, and we eventually banned him from being friends with this character. And
Did that work?
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I know when Jocelyn was she's 6 now, so maybe when she was about 2 or 3, one day we were playing hide and go seek. Yeah. But she was small enough that she had to tag along with me. And we were playing in my house, and Jalen, she's older, so at that time she was like 6. So she's looking for us, and the lights were off. The only outside lights were on. It wasn't that dark, but you couldn't really see like that much, away from that. Like you could see in front of you, but you really had to like concentrate. Yeah. So Jocelyn's sitting there, right next to me, and we're in the hallway in my house, and she just goes,
"Happy belated birthday, Jocelyn, by the way."
Yay! And then she goes, and she's like, she gives me this eerie look, and I'm like, "You okay?" And then she says, "Robot," and I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "Robot," and she looked like around the corner from the hallway, like if she was watching somebody walk by. I didn't see nobody. I know it's not Jalen, because Jalen's in the back of the house. In the living room, and we in like by the floor of the room. So I'm like, okay. And so then I didn't think nothing of it. And then about 2 or 3 days later, this is Jalen now. Has no clue of what happened with the robot. Yeah. She says that she got up in the middle of the night to go to mommy and daddy's room. While she's going to the room, she sees this guy who's a robot sitting in the rocking chair in the living room, and he says, "Don't worry about it, sweetheart. You'll be okay. Go back to bed."
Stop it.
What?
Jalen goes back to bed and then tells me the story later on.
And how old was she?
Jalen was about 6.
6, yeah.
And Jocelyn was about 3.
Yeah.
So Jocelyn first told me about the robot, but Jalen had no clue because I didn't make a big deal of it.
Right.
And then Jalen later on, a couple of days later, I don't remember how long it was, after that, told me that she got up and there was a guy who was like a robot, and he was sitting on a rocking chair in the living room, and when she was walking towards her, you got to walk through the living room to get to daddy's room and mommy's room. He stops her and says, "Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Just go back to bed. Everything's going to be all right." She said she felt calm. She turned around. She went back and put herself to bed.
Oh, my
Wow.
gosh.
Yep.
That's
crazy. So
and
weird.
I still live in that house.
Woo! Maybe I should bring Gold Coast over to check out your house. Or maybe not.
I don't know.
You don't want to know?
I don't want to open up no doors.
Maybe I could bring my robot costume over. Right?
That'd really freak
the kids out.
Do they remember that now?
Jalen remembers more than Jocelyn. Jocelyn is now 6. Jalen is 9.
Yeah.
So she remembers a little bit of it. But my Jocelyn never met my mother. And around that same time, one day we were at church, and my mother always had this like in this one seat that she would always sit. She would always sit in the back. Now, my mom was already gone about 3 years prior to that, so Jocelyn doesn't know that my mom sat back there. And I remember it was after service and we talking, and Jocelyn just says, "Grandma." So me and a couple of us looked and say, "What?" She goes, "Grandma," and she points to the back.
Stop it.
Wow.
Yeah, she points to the back where my mother would sit. And I remember me and a certain person that was there with me was like, she knew that my mom sat back there. How would Jocelyn know my mom sits back there?
That's so crazy.
Why would a 3-year-old say that to me?
Right.
And then to this day, Jocelyn's 6, and she sees my mother's pictures and everything. But it's funny how sometimes when she talks, she acts like she's talked to my mom. Yeah. And like, no, you know what I mean? Like, certain,
like she's familiar.
You met mom for like 2 or 3 days, and then my mom passed. Because Jocelyn was born September 27th. And then my mom's birthday is October 2nd. And I remember taking Jocelyn to see my mother around that time. And then 6 days later, my mom passed. Wow. That same, like, this right now, today's October 8th. And today's my mom's 6th year of passing. But it's like, it's all like boom, 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 boom. And then Jocelyn, and she was only 2-3 days old when she seen my mom. But she talks sometimes like she knows like the characteristics.
Yeah. Well, you almost wonder if, because your mom met her as when she was a newborn and only got that small, tiny little amount of time with her, if somehow that she's purposely visiting her to get to know her or be around her. You gotta wonder. It's interesting. Interesting. I remember my mom has always had, I haven't heard a story in a long time, but she's always had these weird things happen around her. Like when the house we moved into when I was in high school, the family that had moved out, the grandfather was very elderly and on dialysis. He was basically on his last string, and I think like a month after they moved out and we moved in, he passed. And we didn't know that. Why would we know that? But my mom woke up one day and saw him walking in the house. Wow. And was like, what? And I don't know if she contacted the realtor or what, but yeah, it came out that he had just passed. And I remember when my maternal grandmother passed away, butterflies are always in Haitian culture, or I don't know if it's Haitian culture in general or just my family, but they're always been looked at as kind of a message, kind of like Jason has, what is it, dragonflies or a red robin or something like that? Cardinal,
I got
right.
The dragonfly.
Yeah. So for us, it's butterflies. And so my mother didn't know that her mother had even passed. It was that same night. She woke up in the middle of the night, and there's a blue butterfly. My mother's favorite color is blue. There's a blue butterfly sitting at the edge of the bed.
Wow.
And the next morning, she found out her mom passed. Like, come on, It's incredible. I'm a full-time believer.
I totally am also.
I think people who don't believe are kidding themselves.
I've heard stories like that. I've had a friend say that when his uncle passed away in Puerto Rico, that he knew he passed away, but he said, I wish my uncle could come and say goodbye. Yeah. And he said, as soon as he said that, he heard a knock on the window.
Nah,
he heard a knock on the window. And he said that was his uncle saying goodbye. Aww. I was like, look at now I got goodbye. I'm like, don't knock on the window.
Right.
I don't want to. Don't say goodbye.
So how are you guys planning on celebrating Halloween this year? Any plans so far?
Well, I know I'm gonna dress up. I dress up every year.
Yeah.
And so we normally do like a fall festival. They like a block party in North Lakeside Drive.
Okay.
And they get bounce houses and they give candy out.
Nice.
And like everybody in the neighborhood comes out and dresses up. I'm always, some type of wrestler or something.
What?
Yeah.
Wow, what a stretch! I never would have imagined. Oh my god.
Yeah, so it's pretty fun. It's funny because you have like. You could tell like who makes their costumes and who don't. So you get that one person that's paid like $500 or $600 to be a certain witch, and you're like, wow, that looks legit. And then you see that the person who went to like
the dollar store
and was like, are you kidding me? Like for real?
I'm Static Cling.
Yeah, like
wait a minute,
Yeah. I got no big plans as of yet.
Yeah.
Again, because it's my biggest favorite holiday, I really feel empty this year. I'm going away like the week before. I'm like on the 28th to the 30th.
I know.
So I get home on the 30th, and then normally I decorate my house. Yeah. I have video mapping on the outside and projection and lasers. Are you serious?
Okay.
My house is like the house on Halloween. But this year I'm not going to be around to do it, so I'm sure my neighbors are going to be bummed. My neighborhood kids are going to be bummed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I'll find a party on the 31st to go to or something.
Yeah.
I don't even have a costume yet. Normally, like 6 months out, I know exactly what I'm going to be, and it's like done, and I don't even know
Any
yet.
inclinations?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be hard to top last year's, actually.
I know. Last year's was pretty badass.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I'm going to wear either, but it's, my kid wants me to go with Marvel character Black Widow, but it just seems a little too weird. But there's a pun in there somewhere. But, isn't it funny how differently we celebrate Halloween as adults than as kids? Like, when you are celebrating with kids, okay, it's back to the kind of the same thing. But when you're adults, it's all about like alcohol and all this stuff. And I remember I went with some friends of mine years ago to go trick or treating with their kids around the neighborhood, and it was really awesome because the last cul-de-sac we got to, these people had this huge table set outside, and there was a sign on it that said treats for the adults, and it was all like these liquors and mixers, and I'm like, that's what I'm talking about.
There's a house in our neighborhood too. Yeah.
I remember the first time I ever did like a big Halloween blowout party thing was it was in college. It was my senior year. And I had 3 roommates, and we lived in a 4-bedroom, so it was great because we each had our own room, and it was 2-story. So we decided to have this big party, and we called it Heaven and Hell. And so upstairs was heaven, and downstairs was hell, and my room was the only room downstairs. So I made my room like the Devil's Den, I called it. And the stairs was purgatory, and we had a guy actually standing there like checking people if they could go up or down. And then and upstairs there was like, it didn't last long, but there was all that like fluffy pull out cotton, so it looked like clouds. It was really, really cool. But this party came to bite me in the butt years later, because so I mean everyone was dressed to the nines, and we're in college in New Orleans, so we lost ourselves a little bit that night, right? And this one guy, his name was Rob, and I remember he had nothing but like you know, the like boxer shorts with hearts on it or something like that, and he had some angel wings on. Okay, so everyone had to kind of dress either as the heaven or the hell side of things, and I was a devil, of course, and so I think actually technically I was devil's dominatrix, but whatever.
One of those kind of parties.
I really went crazy, and so as a joke to play off my costume, can't believe I'm ending this on podcast, whatever. Rob had a dollar bill, and he had it sticking through the crotch of his boxer shorts. And so I took a joke picture where I was biting the dollar bill, right? Someone took a picture. Well, at the time, so in college was the very first time I was learning anything about web development, right? And one of our assignments was to create a website about our lives, right? And updated it constantly, but almost like an extremely early version of Facebook, but it was just your own single website. And I remember I dedicated one page to the Heaven and Hell party because I had all these pictures. I'm like, let me upload some pictures into this thing. It's cool. Well, I left college and never thought about that website ever again. So here I am, maybe between 5 and 10 years later, I'm not exactly sure. And I was up for this really awesome job that I really, really wanted. And it was with people I was very close to. I won't say what the job was or who they were, but it was at a place that was highly respectable, and it was people who had a lot of respect for me at the time. So I was interviewed. They loved me. I thought I was a shoo-in. They were sending me on training, So I get called in to the main boss's office and said, hey, let's meet up tonight. And it was going to be him and the second person in charge, right? So I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to go. They're going to offer me this job. It's going to be kick-ass. Nope. I get there. And the main boss is like, okay, so I just Googled your name. Just like, anybody around here might Google your name. And I came across this picture, and it looks like you're simulating oral sex. To hear those words out of a person's mouth that you're close to and have like looked up to, and they're like, holy Christ, that sucks. Especially because at the time I was even taking the picture, I didn't even think about it that way. I just was taking a funny picture. I immediately ran home and had to figure out how to break back into the FTP and get it pulled off. It took me till 4:00 in the morning to get this site off of the internet.
Wow.
It was horrible. So a little word of advice, especially now that it's so much easier to have everything you do show up everywhere. Yeah, Halloween parties are great, but just, watch what you do, because it can come back to bite you in the butt.
Wow.
It was the most, I don't get embarrassed easily, probably the most embarrassing moment of my life.
Wow.
Wow.
I didn't even think about it until a couple hours ago. I'm like, oh my God, that's right, that happened.
Wow.
It's terrible, I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Wow.
What's done is done.
Exactly.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Move forward.
So you
But I haven't gotten crazy and all that stuff at a party like that in a long time. That was insane. They have Moonfest though. Have you guys done Moonfest ever?
No.
No.
That's the one on Clematis?
Yeah.
Okay, there's another one this year in Lake Worth also, I believe. They're doing a big...
Oh, really?
Yeah, there is.
thing,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen that. I've seen the posters
Trying
out.
to compete with the overflow
Really?
people from Moonfest, yeah.
Moonfest has gone crazy.
Yes.
Remember the first time I went, I loved it. It was a total blast. I had a great time. Actually, it was... the reason I went was because Valley Mill Kill and the Snack Pack was performing. Yeah. You know, this is way, way back in the day. And I went and had a blast when I got to meet Jason for the first time. It was cool. But the next year when I tried to go, it was like, it felt like it was 10 times the amount of people. It was so packed. It just wasn't even enjoyable anymore. So I haven't been back since. But I might check out this Lake Worth thing you're talking about. That could be cool.
I'll be in the area.
You'll be in the area? What does that mean?
I'll remember I'm gonna be on North Lakeside Drive, which is
okay.
It's right. It's like Lake Worth Road goes from east to west, and North Lakeside Drive goes from north to south, and then east to west. So it's the Lake Worth. So it just crosses like this. Yeah, it's like if you were going towards the bridge, like where Bryant Park is at. It's a couple of streets over. You make a left and you just head down.
You're right there.
It's close, close to 10th Avenue.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll be doing that. My kids will be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
yeah, this year, now it's more just of the trick or treat. I'm really excited this year because, like I was saying, this is the first year that Jordan is kind of gets and understands what Halloween is, and he's already been like talking about it nonstop for a week now. So he's super excited, and it's gonna be cool to get him to watch him do the trick or treating and stuff. Because before, we had to hold the bag up for him and say it, and he just didn't know what was going on. And this year, he's so
you should
excited.
bring him out to the neighborhood because there's Lake Worth police is there, so they got that. I mean, it's like controlled. It's, there's hardly no traffic going through. Kids are knocking on doors. There's bounce houses. I mean, literally, when you leave, they give you a 2-pound bag of candy.
What?
On top of whatever you got.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a lot of kids come. It's been growing and growing. Bounce houses. They got free hot dogs. They get free food out. I mean, it's great.
Okay, so I know where I'm going this year.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's real good.
Well, because Halloween is one of the things that Mike and I try to do together with Jordan, and so the first year for Halloween, I don't remember. We haven't really found the nice sweet spot yet. So it sounds like that's a sweet spot.
Yeah, it is a sweet spot.
Yeah.
You want to keep it clean. Literally, if any thugs come in there to try to, the cops are like,
Out.
Get out of, just go. But especially now, if they're gonna have that stuff in Lake Worth Road, that crowd is gonna stay, further
That's true.
south
From
of
the parties
that area.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
true.
exactly.
That's true. That's true. Wow.
Yeah.
This has been quite the interesting episode.
Yes.
And I think that's all I had on my list.
That's all you got?
I think so.
It was awesome.
Oh no! I wanted to ask you guys, because I never was a prank person when I was a kid. That never was something I really did. But I know a lot of people pull pranks, especially on Halloween. Did you guys ever do anything like that?
I pulled a nice prank. I got the cops called on me. Yep. It happened here. I was on Boynton Beach and Congress. There's a mobile gas station. Well, I have friends that live south of there. There's I don't know, like villas. And so my friend Curtis, his twin brother's girlfriend at that time lived there, and they were hanging out in the house. So there was we didn't have no cell phone.
Yeah.
We went to the payphone, put a call in, called the house. They picked up, and on the other line, I'm like,
Oh, that is creepy
And
that you can do that with your...
and we hung up the phone.
You just threw your voice almost. That
Yeah.
was almost some ventriloquism stuff.
I could
that
do a lot. I'll show you afterwards. And we hung up the phone, and we were like, "Yo, we gotta go by." So I remember he had like a little Honda Civic, and we drove over to the neighborhood. We parked like about a block away, got out the car, walked over there. We could hear him on the inside like freaking out because it just happened. We were literally down the block from them. Start tapping on the door and the windows. She's on the phone with 911. Finally, when we realized that this was getting out of hand, we were knocking the door. No, it's just us. It's just us. When we got into it, was crying, I can't believe it. And then she started telling 911 like it was my friend's prank. But I guess you call 911, they still have to come out and investigate. So they send the Boynton Beach police came out and what's going on? He was very stern. What's going on? I was hey, this is what we did. He was cool after a while. He wanted to find out, if everybody was okay, if this wasn't just us there and they were scared of us.
Right.
Once he realized it was a prank, gone wrong, he left. But yeah, we did that, and it was around that time, around Halloween time.
This prank wasn't around Halloween, and it wasn't my prank, but I have to share it because I witnessed it. It was really damn funny. But my brother had this prank when we were kids. We were latchkey kids. We were home alone. We just came up with all kinds of dumb things to do, and this was really dumb. But so this is back in the day again, before cell phones. It was nothing but landlines, and so what he did was he called a random number, and he wrote down what number he called, and called this random number. And he's made himself sound super official. And he said, this is so-and-so from the electric company or from the phone company or something. We just want to let you know we're going to be working on some lines in your neighborhood tomorrow between 2 and 3. We're calling everyone in the neighborhood because you cannot answer your phone at the time. If you do, the person on the other line could be electrocuted. Mm-hmm. And so we hung up and he was like, okay. The next day, between 2 and 3, he called back. And the person who answers the phone, he always goes, ah! Hangs up the phone. I never laughed so hard in my entire life. And I was like, I wish I could have seen the person's reaction on the other end.
Oh
so
my
evil.
God.
So evil. I don't know if our parents ever knew about that.
Lucky thing they didn't have call ID.
Right.
Nah, not back then. Not back then.
Oh, we used to do stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, gone are the days of prank phone calls.
I know.
Yep.
I know. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah.
But... Well, thank you guys so much for doing this with me.
Thanks,
it was super fun as always.
No doubt.
I'm so excited that we're doing this now, and I was looking forward to the next one.
Oh, yeah.
So,
woohoo! Yeah, are we doing a Thanksgiving episode next one?
Yeah, we
probably
need to.
sounds like it. Yeah,
I like that. We need to do it.
We should do a Thanksgiving one.
Yeah, sounds good. Maybe we'll bring some turkeys and stuff.
And stuff. We'll stuff your turkey.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. That sounds good.
All right, so Jay, Scotty, and Jemmy, 1, 2, 3, Pod Squad. 1, 2, 3,
Pod Squad! No doubt. Ew. That's what's up. That's what I'm talking about.
How about spooky Halloween? That's spooky.
It's creepy because you do it with your mouth closed.
I could do like...
How the F do you do that?
I could do music and everything. Watch this. Ready?
All right, well...
You gotta see this. It's amazing.
That's incredible!
Wow.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Good job, Jay. That was great. Look at you with your hidden talents.
You have successfully curved the cube.